What if the biggest power move in Hollywood was not fame or beauty, but who paid the bill? We hear endless stories about rich men and younger partners, but the reverse happens far more often than anyone admits. Somewhere between red carpets and private jets, some of the most famous actresses quietly became the financial engine of their relationships. Stay with me, because a few of these names will completely flip what you thought you knew. Number 15. Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez built an empire on discipline, precision, and relentless work. Music, film, fashion, touring, every move calculated, every year profitable. When she entered relationships with younger performers, the balance was clear from the start. This was not a shared climb. This was an established star pulling someone into her orbit. One relationship stood out because of how openly structured it appeared. Lopez was not just the public face. She was the financial center. Reports at the time described generous support that covered housing, travel, and lifestyle upgrades that came with standing beside her. He gained access to global stages. She maintained control of the machine. What made this dynamic unusual was how calm it seemed. There were no public complaints, no embarrassment, no attempt to disguise the imbalance. Lopez treated support as an extension of leadership. If you were part of her world, you moved at her level or you did not stay long. Critics whispered. Fans debated. Lopez never explained herself. She did not need to. Her career trajectory already told the story. When the relationship ended, the machine kept running without pause. The takeaway was unmistakable. Jennifer Lopez did not rescue anyone. She invested. And when the investment no longer made sense, she walked forward alone, exactly as she always had. Number 14. Halle Berry. Halle Berry's career demanded reinvention. From dramatic breakthroughs to blockbuster dominance, she earned every step with focus and resilience. By the time she entered certain long-term relationships, her financial position was vastly different from her partner's. That gap would later become impossible to ignore. When the relationship ended, the courtroom became the place where the imbalance finally showed itself. Despite her global success and demanding schedule, Berry was required to provide long-term financial support. Not because she failed, not because she acted unfairly, but because she earned more, far more. The public reaction was divided. Some were shocked. Others quietly acknowledged what rarely gets said out loud. Hollywood law does not care about fame. It cares about income. Berry's success became the deciding factor. What made this situation especially revealing was how composed Berry remained. There were no public rants, no bitterness. She continued working, continued producing, continued moving forward while quietly writing checks that reflected her position. This was not charity, it was obligation, and it shattered the illusion that financial responsibility in relationships always flows one direction. Halle Berry did not ask to become an example, but she did. A reminder that power in Hollywood relationships often shows up long after the cameras stop rolling. Number 13. Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway's rise was built on consistency, thoughtful roles, careful choices, a reputation for professionalism that studios trusted. When she entered a serious relationship outside the Hollywood spotlight, few questioned it. That trust nearly cost her everything. Her partner presented himself as sophisticated and connected. The lifestyle looked impressive: private travel, high-level meetings, expensive habits. What was quietly happening behind the scenes was far less glamorous. Money was being misused. Funds were not where they appeared to be. Hathaway was not married yet, but the financial ties were forming. She supported the relationship emotionally and logistically while remaining unaware of the deeper problems. When the truth surfaced, she acted fast. Legal distance, personal distance, no hesitation. What followed was a public lesson in timing. Had the relationship lasted longer, her finances could have been entangled in years of damage. Instead, she stepped away with her career intact and her fortune protected. Anne Hathaway did not lose money, but she learned how close success can come to being used by the wrong person. Number 12. Madonna. Madonna does not enter relationships quietly. She never has. By the time she married a younger creative partner, her financial position was already legendary. Music sales, tours, Business ventures, decades of dominance. The gap was massive. At first, the pairing looked balanced in public. Art, culture, shared projects. Privately, Madonna was the one sustaining the structure. Homes, travel, lifestyle. When the marriage ended, the numbers finally spoke. The settlement shocked many observers. A significant payout confirmed what insiders already knew. Madonna had been the primary provider throughout the relationship, not symbolically, literally. What made this moment powerful was Madonna's reaction. She did not frame herself as wronged. She framed herself as done. The money was a conclusion, not a regret. Madonna has always treated relationships like creative partnerships. When they function, she commits fully. When they collapse, she closes the chapter cleanly. This was not about generosity. It was about dominance. Madonna did not become a sugar mama by accident. She became one because her success placed her there long before the relationship began. Number 11. Britney Spears. Britney Spears entered adulthood with more money than most people will see in a lifetime. Fame came early. Wealth followed fast. When she entered a relationship with someone far less established, the imbalance showed immediately. She even purchased her own engagement ring, a detail that quietly said everything. Later, when the marriage ended, the financial consequences were unavoidable. Spears was ordered to provide long-term support that reflected her earnings, not her emotional state. To the public, the numbers looked shocking: monthly payments, large transfers. To those who understood the system, it was simple. She earned more. She paid more. What makes this story linger is how young Spears was when it happened. She was navigating global fame, constant pressure, and personal struggle while carrying financial responsibility for another adult. Despite everything, she kept working, touring, recording, supporting an entire operation that depended on her output. Britney Spears did not plan to become a provider. She became one because success arrived before protection did, and that lesson still echoes through Hollywood today. Number 10. Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr did not ease into success. She exploded into it. Her television dominance turned her into one of the highest-paid performers of her era almost overnight. When she entered marriage with a far less established partner, the imbalance was obvious from the start, even if love blurred the warning signs. Against strong legal advice, Roseanne chose not to protect her earnings. No financial safeguards, no safety net. She trusted the relationship more than the numbers. That decision would later become one of the most expensive lessons of her career. When the marriage ended, the settlement stunned observers. Roseanne was required to hand over a massive portion of her fortune. Not symbolic money, life-altering money. The kind that rewrites both careers instantly. What followed was an uncomfortable reversal. Her partner's lifestyle changed permanently, while Roseanne was forced to rebuild momentum she already earned once. The power shift was complete and irreversible. This story stands out because it exposes how quickly control disappears when preparation is ignored. Fame did not protect her. Influence did not protect her. Love did not protect her. Roseanne Barr learned something many stars learned too late. Financial power without boundaries does not stay power for long. Number 9. Liza Minnelli. Liza Minnelli was already a legend when she entered one of her shortest marriages. Decades of success had placed her in a financial category few entertainers ever reach. Her partner, though creative, never approached that level of stability or earning power. The relationship moved quickly. The separation moved faster. What lingered was the financial fallout. Despite a brief union, the settlement that followed was anything but small. A legal technicality transformed what was meant to be protection into obligation. Minnelli was required to part with a staggering amount of money, turning a short chapter into a permanent financial scar. What makes this case especially striking is how little time was involved. There were no long shared careers, no decades of partnership, just a short alignment that ended with enormous consequences. Minnelli did not fight publicly. She did not dramatize the loss. She continued performing, continued appearing, continued carrying herself like the icon she was. But the numbers told a quieter truth. Even legends are vulnerable when success meets misplaced trust. Liza Minnelli's story proves that in Hollywood, duration does not determine damage. One wrong contract can echo longer than an entire career. Number 8. Demi Moore. Demi Moore did not just succeed in Hollywood. She rewrote what success looked like for actresses of her generation. By the time she entered a high-profile marriage with a much younger partner, she was already one of the highest-paid performers in the industry. Big films, big contracts, big leverage. The relationship fascinated the public because it flipped expectations. Moore was established, financially secure, professionally dominant. Her partner was rising, but nowhere near her level of earnings or influence. The imbalance was impossible to miss, even when the couple presented a united front. Behind the scenes, Moore carried the financial weight. Homes, lifestyle, and shared expenses reflected her long-built career rather than mutual contribution. When the marriage ended, the financial reality surfaced clearly. Moore was required to provide significant support, confirming what many had already assumed. What made this moment revealing was Moore's response. She did not express resentment. She did not rewrite history. She accepted the outcome and continued forward without public complaint. Demi Moore's story stands as one of the clearest examples of reversed Hollywood economics. She did not lose status by being the provider. She exposed how outdated assumptions about power still are. Success did not make Demi Moore vulnerable. It made her visible. Number 7. Christina Aguilera. Christina Aguilera has been earning since her teenage years. Albums, tours, endorsements. Her income grew steadily while she matured publicly and privately. When she entered a relationship with someone working behind the scenes, the financial difference was unmistakable. Aguilera never rushed formal commitments. She made that clear. Instead, she maintained control while generously funding a shared lifestyle, travel, homes, experiences, all sustained by her career momentum. What stood out was her honesty. She openly acknowledged paying for most things. There was no attempt to hide it or spin it. She framed it as choice, not obligation. This dynamic worked because it was understood. Aguilera did not present herself as a rescuer. She remained the center of her professional universe while allowing her partner to orbit without pressure. Observers often misunderstood the arrangement, assuming imbalance meant instability. In reality, clarity made it sustainable. Christina Aguilera's story shows how financial leadership does not always create tension. Sometimes it creates structure. She stayed in control because she never pretended the scales were equal. Number 6. Katy Perry. Katy Perry reached global success rapidly. Hit records, world tours, massive earnings. When she married someone whose career followed a different rhythm, the financial difference became impossible to ignore. What made this situation risky was the lack of preparation. No financial safeguards, no formal boundaries. When the marriage ended, Perry stood to lose an enormous portion of her fortune. The outcome surprised many. Her partner chose not to pursue financial claims, a rare decision that saved Perry millions and closed the chapter cleanly. But the lesson remains. Katy Perry did not avoid becoming a sugar provider because the system protected her. She avoided it because someone chose restraint. That distinction matters. Perry later spoke about the relief and closure, marking the experience as a turning point in how she approached personal boundaries. This entry highlights how close success often comes to loss. One signature can change everything. Katy Perry walked away intact, but the margin was thinner than most people realize. Number 5. Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson grew up inside fame, but she earned her independence the hard way. By the time she entered marriage with a creative partner, she had already proven she was more than a famous last name. Tours sold out, albums dominated. Her income dwarfed that of nearly everyone around her. The relationship appeared collaborative on the surface. Music videos, shared projects, public unity. Behind the scenes, the financial structure was clear. Janet carried the weight. When the marriage ended, that reality followed her into legal territory. The settlement required a substantial payout. Not symbolic, not minor, a clear reflection of who generated the wealth in the relationship. Janet did not contest it publicly. She did not dramatize the outcome. She handled it quietly and moved forward. What stands out is how normalized the situation became. Few headlines lingered, few debates followed. The public accepted the arrangement without the shock often seen when roles reverse. Janet Jackson did not reshape expectations loudly. She did it by existing exactly as she was. Her story reinforces a simple truth. When success is steady and long-term, responsibility follows it. and Janet never stepped away from either. Number 4. Tori Spelling. Tori Spelling's financial story is often misunderstood. While her inheritance became a frequent talking point, her actual income came from years of television work, reality programming, and publishing. When she entered marriage with an aspiring actor, the imbalance was immediate. Their lives unfolded publicly. Reality cameras captured financial stress, shifting roles, and repeated attempts to stabilize income. Despite that, Tori remained the primary earner for much of the relationship. What made this situation unusual was transparency. Unlike most Hollywood couples, their struggles were visible. Viewers watched as Spelling attempted to stretch earnings, fund family life, and manage expectations built around her last name. Even with reduced resources, she consistently out-earned her partner. Responsibility stayed with her. This entry matters because it shows that sugar dynamics are not always glamorous. Sometimes they involve budgeting, compromise, and pressure rather than luxury. Tori Spelling did not live a fantasy version of support. She lived a practical one. And in doing so, she revealed that being the provider does not disappear just because the spotlight fades. Number 3. Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston's career stability is unmatched. Long after her breakthrough television role, she remained one of the most bankable performers in entertainment. When she entered marriage with a lesser-known creative, the financial structure was unmistakable. Their combined wealth appeared impressive on paper. In reality, the majority flowed from Aniston's long-established success. Endorsements, film salaries, residual income. Her financial engine never slowed. What made the relationship notable was how quietly unequal it was. There were no public disputes, no visible tension, but insiders consistently acknowledged where the financial center lived. When the marriage ended, it did so cleanly. Preparation and clarity protected both sides from chaos. Aniston's story stands out because it reflects maturity. She did not stumble into responsibility. She anticipated it. Jennifer Aniston shows that being the higher earner does not require dominance or sacrifice. It requires awareness. And awareness, in Hollywood, is often the rarest currency of all. Number 2. Jessica Simpson. Jessica Simpson reinvented herself financially. While music and film introduced her to fame, business turned her into a powerhouse. By the time she married a former athlete, her income exceeded his by a wide margin. Unlike many stories on this list, there was no secrecy here. The difference was acknowledged early. Legal protections were in place. Expectations were clear. Simpson continued expanding her brand while supporting a shared lifestyle that reflected her success. The relationship functioned because boundaries were defined from the start. What makes this entry important is balance. Simpson did not lose control. She did not resent responsibility. She planned for it. Her financial leadership did not weaken the relationship. It stabilized it. Jessica Simpson's story proves that being the primary provider does not automatically create imbalance. Poor communication does. She succeeded because she treated love and money as separate systems that must cooperate, not collide. Number 1. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey defines longevity. By the time she entered marriage with a younger entertainer, she had already built decades of chart-topping success. Her earnings, influence, and reach existed on a completely different scale. The relationship appeared playful and affectionate, but the financial structure was unmistakable. Carey had been earning at elite levels long before her partner entered the industry. That gap shaped everything. When the marriage ended, the settlement confirmed what observers already knew. Carey had been the provider throughout. The numbers simply made it official. What sets Carey apart is how unapologetic the outcome felt. There was no narrative of loss, no attempt to soften the reality. She moved forward with confidence intact. Mariah Carey did not stumble into this role. She arrived there naturally through sustained success. That is why she sits at number 1. Not because she paid the most, but because she normalized a dynamic the industry still pretends is rare. So, the next time someone assumes power in Hollywood always moves in one direction, remember this list. Success changes the rules, and these women played by their own. Some planned it, some learned it. All of them proved that influence is not about image, it is about who keeps the lights on. Drop your thoughts below, subscribe for more deep dives like this, and ask yourself one question. How many stories like these are still hiding in plain sight?